For context, I won't be using real names since everyone involved is active on Reddit, and I'm here looking for advice. This all went down last night. I've taken a bit of time to process it, but honestly, I still don't know how to move forward. I'm 26, and I'm engaged to my fiancée, Katie, who's 27. Our relationship has been pretty typical, ups and downs, occasional arguments, but nothing we couldn't work through. We're supposed to get married next month. But after what I just found out, I'm not even sure if I want to go through with it anymore. Katie's best friend, Amanda, who's also 27, is married to her husband, Nick, who's 28. Nick is supposed to be my best man at the wedding, and Amanda is Katie's maid of honor. The four of us usually hang out every other weekend. Sometimes we go out, other times we stay in, watch movies, and have a few drinks. But what happened this particular night completely blindsided me. It started off as a typical evening, having a few drinks, relaxing, but Amanda ended up drinking way more than usual. Out of nowhere, and right in front of her husband, she straddles me and starts kissing me. I immediately pulled back and told her to stop. Nick just sat there, staring in complete shock at what was happening. Then Amanda said something that floored me. "I'm just trying to set up a threesome with you and Katie." I was stunned and asked her what the hell she was talking about. Katie, meanwhile, just sat there, completely silent, making no move to stop Amanda. I asked Amanda again why she think this was okay. She just looked at me and said, "Katie told me she wanted to give you a threesome, so I'm helping her make it happen." Still, Katie said nothing. She just sat there, letting it play out. Nick was frozen in disbelief, and I was struggling to wrap my head around the situation. Then Amanda dropped the real bombshell. She said, without even hesitating, that she and Katie had already had a threesome with Nick before he and Amanda got married. The room went dead silent. Nick dropped his head, avoiding eye contact with me. Katie looked horrified, like she'd just been caught red-handed. I felt like I'd just seen a ghost. And Amanda? She sat there with this blank expression, like she hadn't just dropped the biggest secret of all time. After what felt like forever, Katie rushed Amanda and Nick out of our apartment, and tried to explain herself. But I didn't want to hear it. I brushed her off and left to crash at a friend's place for the night. Since then, my phone's been blowing up with calls and texts from both Katie and Amanda, saying I wasn't supposed to find out and that my reaction was out of line. As far as I know, Nick isn't talking to Amanda right now either, which probably has a lot to do with her behavior that night. At this point, I don't want to talk to any of them. I feel completely blindsided and betrayed. I'm stuck trying to figure out what to do next because, honestly, this is a lot to deal with all at once. Hey, I'm back with an update. The past day and a half has been a whirlwind of emotions and secrets unraveling. To recap from my last post, I found out, thanks to a drunken confession, that my fiancée, Katie, and her friend Amanda had a threesome with Amanda's husband, Nick. After everything that's come to light, I've decided to call off the engagement and cut all contact with the three of them. It wasn't just the shock of what I learned but the betrayal of them keeping this from me for 3 years. Like anyone who's ever discovered a gut-wrenching secret about their partner's past, I was hit with the usual attempts at damage control. You know, the whole, "we can work through this," or "it's not a big deal, let's just move past it," kind of stuff. But I decided to confront Katie about it. Unfortunately, all I got was half-hearted explanations about when and how it happened. Even though I probably shouldn't have, I decided to ask Nick for his side of the story. What he told me made my stomach churn. Turns out, it wasn't a one-time thing. Katie and Amanda had multiple threesomes with Nick, both before and after he and Amanda got married. They only stopped when Katie told them she was in a relationship with me. I didn't ask how long Nick and Amanda had been married because, honestly, I was already feeling sick just thinking about it. Later, I went to Amanda and Nick's house to get more answers. I asked Amanda why she tried to start a threesome with me and Katie that night. She explained that Katie had mentioned wanting to give me a threesome before we got married so I could enjoy being with another woman one last time. Amanda claimed Katie never explicitly asked her to be the third, but because of some high school promise between them, she assumed she'd automatically fill that role. I pressed further, asking why she thought it was okay to pull something like that in front of Nick. Amanda said Nick was fully aware of all the threesomes she and Katie had shared with him and other guys. She also admitted that Nick knew about the promise she and Katie made years ago. She even said that if I had agreed to the threesome, Nick wasn't going to join. Instead, she planned to make Nick watch, essentially turning him into a cock. Hearing all of this left me even more disgusted. But that wasn't the worst part. Amanda went on to admit that she and Katie had given threesomes to other men besides Nick. Apparently, Nick was originally just a casual hookup for Amanda that turned into marriage, not because they dated or fell in love, but because they'd been hooking up for so long they decided to tie the knot. While I was still talking to Amanda, Nick walked in and asked why I was there. I told him I was trying to get the last bits of information I needed before making a decision. He nodded and joined us. That's when I asked how long he and Amanda had been married. Without missing a beat, he said they'd been married for almost 3 years, with their anniversary coming up in a couple of months. Nick also added that their marriage shouldn't have any impact on my relationship with Katie since she and I got together after they were already married. But from what he said, I realized they had no idea about my timeline with Katie. They had still been having threesomes with her after we started dating. I didn't correct him about how long Katie and I had been together, but I did press for one last detail: when their last threesome with Katie happened. Nick casually replied, "Sometime in May 2022. That answer hit me like a freight train. Katie and I had been together since October 2021. They were still doing this while she was with me. After hearing that, I told them I was done. I made it clear that I wasn't going to stay with Katie, and there was no chance of us getting back together. Then I left. Since then, I'd been bombarded with calls and texts from all 3 of them, begging me not to throw away the engagement. They keep saying it shouldn't matter because it was before you. What they don't know is that it wasn't. It was happening while Katie and I were already together. When I got back home, Sasha wasn't there, but her car was parked outside. I figured she was out with a friend since I hadn't been home in a day. I went inside and started packing my things. While I was packing, I noticed the engagement ring I'd given her sitting on the dresser. Without a second thought, I grabbed it and shoved it into one of my bags. I managed to get everything I planned to take packed up in about 30 minutes. Just as I was heading out the door, Sasha pulled up. Her sister had dropped her off, and she looked absolutely wrecked, like she'd been crying nonstop. In her hand was a bag from a local sex shop, which just made the whole situation even more bizarre. She ran up to me, threw her arms around me, and started sobbing, begging me to come back inside and talk to her. I told her I might consider staying, if she was willing to tell me the entire truth. I wasn't holding my breath though, so I went ahead and loaded everything into my truck anyway. Still, I decided to give her one last chance to come clean. Once we were inside, Sasha tried to dodge my questions. Instead of addressing what happened, she kept rambling on about her feelings. Honestly, I was way past the point of caring about how she felt. I cut her off and started asking direct questions based on what Mike and Amanda had already told me. Sasha knew I'd spoken with them and admitted she'd been rushing home to stop me from leaving. To my surprise, she didn't deny a single thing they said. In fact, she ended up revealing even more than I already knew. Apparently, Mike never actually wanted to marry Amanda. What he really wanted was to be with Sasha. But Sasha told him she couldn't be with someone her best friend had already been hooking up with. So, according to her, Mike settled for Amanda just to stay close to Sasha. Sasha had no idea I was recording the entire conversation. I asked her why she kept doing threesomes with them after we started dating. Her response? She didn't think we were serious enough at the time for her to stop. Keep in mind, we'd been together for nearly 7 months before she finally cut it off. Looking back, it made sense why she kept putting off introducing me to Amanda and Mike, or why she'd spend so many nights at Amanda's house instead of with me. At that point I'd had enough. I told her I'd come back another day to get the rest of my stuff, but the engagement was off, the wedding was cancelled, and she needed to let everyone know not to come. Since then, I've been crashing at a friend's place. I waited until I'd calmed down enough to write this update. After I left, I sent the video I recorded to both Amanda and Mike, which included Sasha's confessions and Mike's admission that he'd settled for Amanda. Now, all three of them are blowing up my phone with calls and texts, but I'm not responding. Things have spiraled even further. Both Amanda and Sasha have taken to social media to air out what's happened. Amanda is now on the verge of divorce after finding out Mike never actually wanted to marry her. Their friendship is falling apart, too, since Sasha had kept Mike's feelings for her a secret all this time. In the comments of Amanda's post, I clarified the timeline of my relationship with Sasha. Turns out, while Mike claimed he didn't know about me, Amanda did, and she still went ahead with the threesomes. What's worse is that it was Mike's idea to involve Sasha, even though Amanda and Sasha already had a history of doing threesomes together. And then came the final gut punch. I found out Sasha had an abortion 5 months into our relationship. For context, Sasha and I always used protection, but she wasn't using it when she was with Amanda and Mike. She ended up pregnant with Mike's baby and chose to terminate the pregnancy without telling me. But it doesn't stop there. I also learned that during that same period, Sasha had repeatedly forced herself sexually on her younger stepbrother. I don't know how this nightmare is going to end, but for me, it ended the moment I found out about the secret threesomes. I wouldn't wish this level of betrayal and heartbreak on anyone.